Today we're looking at multiplying polynomials together.
So last time we talked about adding polynomials and how they have to be the exact same to add them. But multiplying is different. Multiplying, you can multiply any two things together. When you multiply the coefficients, the number in front of the term, and you add the powers of the variables. So let's look at number 1. We have a 3, and that is multiplied by 2x squared minus x plus 4. When I multiply this, I need to distribute that 3 into all three terms. 3 times 2x squared, we multiply the 3 and the 2 to give us 6, and then we have that x squared still there. On the second one, we take the 3 and times it by the negative x. Now, it's like a negative 1 in front of that x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, and then we have an x there. When the last term is going to be 3 times 4, which gives us 12, and that is our answer for number 1. Looking at number 2, I'm going to take that 2x and multiply it to each piece inside the parentheses. So 2x times 3x squared, we take the 2 times 3 to give us 6. And then I have 1x times x to the third. That's x times x times x. So altogether, this gives us 4 x's. We add the exponents. 1 plus 3 gives us x to the fourth. So 2 times 3 is 6. X to the first times x to the third is x to the fourth. Then I take 2x times negative 5x. 2 times negative 5 gives me a negative 10. And x times x gives us x squared. We add 1 plus 1 gives us 2. On that third term, we're going to take the 2 times 8 to give us 16. And then the 2x has an x. So the third piece is going to be plus 16x. And that's our answer. On number 3, we're going to take negative 3n cubed and distribute it to each piece inside the parentheses. It needs to go to every single piece in there. There's 4 things. Negative 3n cubed, we're going to times that by 2n to the 5th. We multiply those first two numbers together to get negative 6, and it's going to be n to the 8th because we take n to the 3rd times n to the 5th. We add the exponents to give us n to the 8th. The next piece, we have negative 3 times positive 1 gives us negative 3. We add n to the cubed and n cubed to give us n to the 6th power. On the third piece, we take the negative 1 times negative 3 to give us a positive 3, n to the 5th. We add the 3 plus 2 to give us 5. On the last piece, we have negative 3 times 4 gives us negative 12. And then we have an n cubed, and that would be our answer for that one. Now, there's something called foiling. Foiling is a way to multiply two binomials together. What the FOIL stands for is first, outside, inside, last. We times the first two terms together, then the outside two terms together, then the inside two terms together, and then the last two terms together. So it's right here, we're going to times the x times x to give us x squared. Then we take the x times the negative 5, and that gives us the negative 5x that you see next. Then we do the inside two terms. 4 times x gives us 4x. And then our last terms, we have 4 times negative 5 to give us a negative 20. And that would be the last term there. Now, if you notice, we have a negative 5x and a positive 4x. Those two are like terms. So we can combine those together to give us a negative 1x. Now, when we write negative 1x, we don't usually write the 1. So we have x squared minus x instead of the negative 1x minus 20. Looking at number 4, we're going to times those first two terms together. X times x gives us x squared. We add 1 plus 1 to give us the 2 exponent. Then we take the outside two terms, x times 3. That gives us 3x. So I add plus 3x for our second term there. The third term, we're going to take the inside terms. The I stands for inside. 5 times x gives us 5x. So the next term will be plus 5x. The last two terms would be 5 and 3. When we multiply those together, 5 times 3 gives us 15. So at the end, we add 15. Now notice we have 3x and 5x. Those two are like terms, and we can add those together. 5 plus 3 gives us 8x. So our final answer, we just drop down that x squared plus 8x and drop down the 15. And that part in green is our answer. Looking at number 5, we're going to do x times x, the first two terms, together. Another way of thinking about this is we're taking the x and we're multiplying it into both pieces of the second parentheses. So x times x gives us x squared, x times 3 gives us 3x. Then we're going to take the negative 6 and distribute it in. Negative 6 times x gives us negative 6x, and negative 6 times 3 gives us negative 18. We combine the 3x and the negative 6x together to give us a negative 3x, and we have x squared minus 3x minus 18. Looking at number 6, we're going to take the x and distribute it through the first two terms. X times x gives us x squared. X times negative 7 gives us negative 7x. That would be the first and outside terms. Then we take the negative 2 and distribute it through. This will give us the inside and last term. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 7 is positive 14. We combine the negative 7 and the negative 2 to get negative 9x. And our final answer is x squared minus 9x plus 14. Looking over at number 7, the first term is where I take 3x times x. That gives us 3x squared. Then we distribute that 3x to the 7 to give us plus 7 times 3 is 21x. Those are the outside terms. The inside terms are 2 times x is 2x. And the last term would be 2 times 7 is 14. We combine those middle two terms. We have 3x squared, 21 plus 2 is 23x plus 14, and that will be our final answer. Heading to number 8, we're going to take 2x and times it by the 5x. That is the first terms, that's the F for FOIL, and then we take the 2x and times it by the negative 5. 2 times 5 is 10, and we have x times x. We add the exponents to be x squared. Then the outside term would be 2x times negative 5 would be negative 10x. Then the inside terms, the 3 times 5 is 15x, and 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. We combine the negative 10x and the 15x to give us 5x. So we get 10x squared plus 5x minus 15.
On number 10, we have 3x squared as our first term. We're going to still FOIL. We multiply our first two terms together. We multiply the numbers. 3 times 1 is 3. And then we're going to add the exponent. If there's not an exponent, it's a 1. So we're going to have 3x. 2 plus 1 is a 3. Then we do our outside two terms. 3x squared times negative 2. We multiply the numbers. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Now the 2 doesn't have an x squared, but the 3 does. So we're just going to bring that x squared down. Our next thing we do is we multiply the inside terms. 4 times 1x, 4 times 1 is a 4. And then the x just comes down. There's not another x to combine with. And our last two is we are going to multiply 4 times negative 2 which is negative 8. Let me add that x in, and that's our answer. We want to look and make sure there's not any like terms. They're not here, so this is our answer.
Now we can use this distributing, that double distribution that we used on the previous problem, to do it if it has more than 2 terms in the second parentheses. We're going to take that x squared and distribute it to all 3 pieces of the second parenthesis. So x squared times 3x squared is 3x to the 4th. X squared times x is x cubed. We add the 2 and the 1. And then x squared times negative 6 will give us negative 6x squared. Then we take the 4 and we distribute that all through. I'm going to put 4 times 3x squared is 12x squared. I'm going to put it right below the negative 6x squared so that we can add those together because they are like terms. Then I take 4 times x to get plus 4x, and 4 times negative 6 gives me negative 24. I drop down the things that are by themselves. 3x to the 4th plus x cubed plus 6x squared. 12x squared minus 6x squared gives me 6x squared plus 4x minus 24. And that is our answer for number 10. On number 11, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're taking 5n squared and we're going to distribute it to all the pieces of the second parenthesis. So I take it to the 2n squared, the n, and the negative 7. 5n squared times 2n squared is 5 times 2 is 10. We add the exponents to be n to the 4th. 5 times 1, remember there's a 1 in front of that n, gives us 5n cubed. 2 plus 1 is 3. And 5n squared times negative 7 is negative 35n squared. I take the negative 3 and I distribute it to everything inside the second parenthesis. If I take negative 3 times 2, that gives me negative 6n squared. Notice I'm going to write it right underneath the negative 35n squared because those are like terms. I take negative 3 times n, gives me negative 3n, and negative 3 times negative 7, remember 2 negatives together make a positive, is positive 21. I drop down the things that don't have anything that they're adding to, and then I have negative 35n squared and negative 6n squared. When I combine that, that equals negative 41n squared minus 3n plus 21. And that's how you do problem number 11. Now, problem 12 and 13 are a little bit different in that they are area problems. Now, I want you to think back to elementary school when you were learning your times tables. You learned that 2 times 4 was 8. And we did this sometimes with an area model. If I take 2 squares by 4 squared, that equals 8 squares. So if we're finding the area, we just multiply the sides together to get the area. On this rectangle, I have x plus 2 times x plus x minus 6. We're going to multiply those together using FOIL. First is x times x, which is x squared. Second is the O. X times negative 6 gives me negative 6x. The I for inside is 2 times x is 2x. And last is 2 times negative 6 gives us negative 12. We combine the like terms in the middle. Negative 6x plus 2x is negative 4x minus 12. So we drop down the x squared and the negative 12, and the area for this rectangle will be x squared minus 4x minus 12. The area of a triangle is a little bit different than a square or a rectangle. We are taking a triangle. If you take a rectangle and cut it in half, that would give you a shape of a triangle. So the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So we're going to take 1/2 times the base, which is 2x plus 8, times the height, which is x plus 3. Now, when we have 3 things that we're multiplying together, first I'm going to take the 1/2 and distribute it into that first parenthesis. 1/2 of 2 is 1, so I just write an x. 1/2 of 8 gives me 4. Then we're going to drop the x plus 3 down, and we're going to FOIL like we did before. We're going to take x times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Then we do the inside. 4 times x gives us 4x. And 4 times 3 gives us 12. We combine the middle two terms. 3x plus 4x gives us 7x. And then we drop the last things down that are not combining with anything. Our answer on this one is x squared plus 7x plus 12.